Welcome back. Now that we have covered all of the basics of Python, or at least the basics that you need to know for this course, we're going to jump into some finance related or some specifically finance focused Python work now. We're going to use some data from the web, we're going to visualize that data, format that data, transform that data, and then ultimately look at that data in terms of the CAPM. So these next couple of videos are going to be set up a little bit different. They are going to be very short videos covering specific topics with a problem following each of the different sections, and we'll kind of jump into that right now. So the first thing you're going to see is right here at the top of this notebook for topic 4, there are a lot of libraries that we're going to be importing, and we're going to use them all throughout this set of lectures and the next. There's some familiar ones like pandas and NumPy. There's some graphing ones such as matplotlib, Seaborn, and then all of the plotly tools. We're going to get data from Yahoo Finance, and for that we're going to use the pandas data reader. And so what you can do is actually just run this first cell. And running it may take a moment because there are a lot of libraries being imported. It shouldn't take too long though. And the nice thing here is that everything's already installed because we are using Google Colabs. So once that has all run, let's jump down a little bit and talk about this next set of code. We're creating a list called tickers, and all tickers is going to be is a list of different stocks that we're going to pull from Yahoo Finance. So if you're not familiar with what Yahoo Finance looks like, I'd suggest checking that out for a minute, just kind of scrolling around, typing in a ticker or two in the search bar, seeing what information is available to you. But this is going to access that web page for us. We're not actually going to have to go out and download any data ourselves. We're just going to pass one line of code and get back all the data that we're interested in. So here we go. We have Apple through SPY, which is the S&P 500 ETF. You're welcome to change these, but if you want your answers to match mine, I'd go ahead and leave these values as is. But later on, if you're working, you're welcome to change this up if you had some other stocks you're interested in exploring. So down here, we're going to make a data frame called stocks_df. We're going to set it equal to web.getDataYahoo. And web is what we've imported pandas data reader as. And getDataYahoo is going to allow us to access that Yahoo Finance database, or that Yahoo Finance website. We're going to pass in our list of tickers, so which stocks we want to pull data for. We're going to have a start date. I've just chosen 2012-0101 and an end date of the last day of September 2020. We're going to keep the adjusted close and we're going to reset the index. And this is a formatting step, and then in the next step we're going to take that data set. We're going to say .columns .name equals none, and this is another formatting data step. So what I would suggest is you just run this bit of code. If you're curious what those formatting steps are doing, feel free to take them off and then add them back in after you look at what the unformatted version looks like. But this is all you need to get this data from Yahoo Finance. So let's go ahead and run this one. And this cell will also take a moment. It's not going to run instantaneously because it does have to go out to the website, pass through these tickers, and download the data. And once that's done, we can run stocksdf.head and look at what our data looks like. So here we have it. We have a column for date, which corresponds to the dates that we are looking for. And we have all of our stock prices. Again, AAPL, BAT, MGM, Amazon or AMZN, IBM, TSLA, GOOG, and SPY. Those do in fact correspond directly to the tickers that we passed in from that list above. Now, because this is stock data and chronological order is very important, we're going to sort by date. And I'll tell you right now, even if you think your data is sorted, it's a good practice just to enforce that it is, right? So we're going to pass in this sorting step because as you see here, yes, it does appear to be sorted. However, we don't know what's going on beyond observation 6 at this point because we can't see it. So just making sure that things are sorted is a good first step. And there we have it. It does appear sorted. We're going to talk about a print statement next. So let's just get some descriptives about our data set. And by descriptives, I just mean what's in it. How many stocks are there? What stock names are there? So we're going to use a print statement, which we've done before, but we're going to format it a little bit differently. We want to print out total number of stocks in a colon. And what you'll notice here now is I have a squiggly brackets. After that, I have a dot format len, which is just going to tell us how many observations are there, how long is something. Well, how long is what? The data frame we're working with, dot columns, skipping column 0. So let's scroll up and just look at what this is doing. We're asking Python to calculate how long is this data frame where we're counting each of the columns. So how many columns are in this data frame? But we are skipping column 0. We're starting at column 1. So in other words, we're skipping date. What we're trying to do is say how many stocks are in this data set. We know every column represents a stock with the exception of column 1. So if we run this, what happens is whatever is in the dot format set of parentheses is what gets placed here instead of those squiggly brackets. You can see that's the case down here. Total number of stocks, colon. We don't see the brackets here on the output. Instead, what we see is the answer to what we have typed in here. How many stocks are in this data frame? 9. Next up, we're going to utilize a for loop, which we've already used a few times in this class. So we're going to print out stocks under consideration are. That will print out at the top. And what we want to do is we want to print out a list of all the tickers in this data set. It's not too hard to view all the tickers right now because they all fit on a screen, but if we had 100 or 200 tickers, or even if it was 15, we'd have to do some scrolling around. So this is going to print them all out here for us to easily view. For each observation in our data frame, skipping column 0, let's do something. What are we going to do? We're going to print out that ticker. So if we run this, that's exactly what we get. Stocks under consideration are AAPL, BAT, down through GOOG, and SPY. Let's take a minute to talk about the problem setup in these sets of notes. Prior to this, what we've had is a separate notebook for our notes and a separate notebook for our problems. Those problems did not use the data that we were using in the notes. They had separate independent data that we could just open, run problems on, and do those problems separately. In contrast, what we have now is we're going to be doing problems on the data set as we continuously build it. Therefore, the problems are now going to be located in the same notebook as the notes. They're very clearly labeled, very large text, problem number 1. We have to answer these questions. There's a cell right below where you can work on these problems. So for example, problem 1 says, what is the average return of the S&P 500? Which stock or index has the minimum dispersion from the mean in dollar value? Otherwise asking you which one has the smallest standard deviation? And what is the maximum price for AMZN stock over the specified time period that we have pulled? Take a minute, do problem 1, and we'll continue on here in a moment with the next set of notes.